Okay, picture this. You need someone to do something for you. So you say, I was just wondering if you might possibly be able to help me with something if you're not too busy?
And meanwhile, what you actually mean is, can you help me?
Exactly. So why do we make it so complicated? Why all the extra words?
That's the question we hear from English learners all the time. Why does English sound so polite? Or more specifically, why does it sound so uncertain when people are actually quite sure?
Because that's the confusing part, isn't it? All those maybes and possiblies and if you don't minds, it sounds like we're not confident, but we are.
Today, we're breaking down why English speakers soften their language, what all those extra words actually mean, and how you can use politeness without sounding weak or unsure.
I'm Lucy.
And I'm James. Welcome back to Plain English. So let's start with a simple scenario. You're in a room, it's warm, and you want someone to open the window. What could you say?
Well, the most direct way would be open the window.
Correct. Grammatically perfect, clear, efficient. But how does that sound to you?
Honestly, a bit rude, like you're ordering someone around.
Exactly. And that's the first thing to understand about English. Direct commands can feel aggressive, even when you don't mean them that way.
So, what would you say instead?
You have options. Can you open the window is one step softer. Could you open the window is even more polite. And then you can go further. Would you mind opening the window?
Ooh, would you mind is interesting because it's asking if they'd be bothered by it rather than just asking them to do it.
Precisely. And notice how each version adds distance between you and the request. You're making it feel less like a command and more like an invitation for them to help.
But why? Why do we need all that distance?
It's about reducing social pressure. In English speaking cultures, there's a strong emphasis on not imposing on others. When you soften your language, you're signaling that you respect their autonomy.
Though it's not that you're uncertain about wanting the window open, you're just being considerate about asking.
Exactly. The meaning is completely clear. You want the window open, but the softness is social, not logical.
That's actually really important for learners to understand because I think a lot of people worry that if they use all this soft language, they'll sound weak or unsure.
That's a very common concern. But here's the thing. In English, being polite doesn't make you sound weak. Being too direct can actually make you sound aggressive or socially unaware.
So there's this sweet spot you're trying to hit.
There is, and it varies depending on context. With close friends or family, you can be more direct. Hey, open the window. It's fine. But with colleagues, strangers, or informal situations, you need more cushioning.
Can you give me an example of when being too direct could cause problems?
Sure. Imagine you're at work and you need a report from a colleague. If you email them saying, send me the report, that could be seen as demanding or dismissive.
Even though you just need the report.
Right. But if you say, could you send me the report when you get a chance? Suddenly it feels collaborative rather than bossy.
And adding when you get a chance gives them some control over when they do it.
Exactly. You're acknowledging that they have their own priorities and schedule. It's a small thing, but it makes a big difference in how the request is received. Let's pause here and break down some of the softening words we've been talking about.
Yes, because these little words are everywhere in English.
First, the word just. This is probably the most common softener in English. I was just wondering, could I just ask? I just wanted to check.
What does just actually do there?
It minimizes the request. It makes it sound smaller, less important, less demanding. Compare, I wanted to ask you something with I just wanted to ask you something. The second one feels lighter, doesn't it?
It does. It's like you're saying, this is not a big deal. Don't worry.
Exactly right. Another common set of softeners, a bit, kind of, a little, sort of.
I'm a bit confused. It's kind of urgent. Could you speak a little slower?
Perfect examples. These words don't really change the core meaning. If you're confused. But saying a bit confused makes it feel less absolute, less dramatic.
So it's gentler?
Yes, and here's the key insight. These softeners don't weaken your message. They protect the listener's comfort. You're still communicating clearly, you're just doing it in a way that feels considerate.
That's such a relief because I think learners worry that using these words makes them sound wishy washy.
It's the opposite. Using these words shows you understand English social norms. Not using them can make you sound too harsh, even if that's not your intention at all.
Okay, so we've established that being polite is important. But I want to tackle this head on. Doesn't being too polite make you sound uncertain or lacking confidence?
That's the million-dollar question, and the answer is it depends on your culture and expectations.
What do you mean?
In some cultures, directness equals honesty and clarity. If you're direct, you're being respectful by not wasting time. But in English-speaking cultures, particularly British and American professional contexts, directness can feel blunt or even rude.
So, what feels confident in one culture might feel aggressive in another.
Precisely. And this is where English learners sometimes struggle because their natural communication style might be more direct and they worry that softening it makes them sound weak.
But it doesn't?
Not to native English speakers. To us, someone who uses polite, softened language sounds professional, considerate, and socially skilled. Someone who's too direct might come across as pushy or thoughtless.
Can you give me a workplace example?
Sure. Let's say you're in a meeting and you disagree with someone's idea. If you say, "That won't work," it sounds dismissive and confrontational.
What should you say instead?
Something like, "I see what you're saying, but I'm not sure that approach would work because..." You're still disagreeing, you're still making your point, but you've softened it with, "I see what you're saying," and "I'm not sure."
So, you're cushioning the disagreement.
Yes, you're showing respect for their idea even while offering a different perspective. That's not weakness, that's diplomatic skill.
Okay, what about asking for help? Because I think that's where people really worry about sounding too uncertain.
Good example. If you say, "I need help with this," that's direct and clear, but it can sound demanding. Compare it to, "I was hoping you could help me with this if you have time."
That's so much longer, though.
It is, but those extra words do important work. "I was hoping" suggests it's a wish, not a demand. "If you have time" gives them an out, shows you respect their schedule.
But you still get the help?
Usually, yes, because you've made it easy for them to say yes. You haven't cornered them or made them feel obliged. Paradoxically, being more polite often gets you better results than being direct.
That's fascinating. So it's actually more effective?
In English-speaking contexts, absolutely. Now, there's a balance. You don't want to be so indirect that your meaning gets lost, but generally, erring on the side of politeness is safer than being too blunt.
What about when you need to give criticism or negative feedback?
This is where softening language becomes essential. Direct criticism in English can feel very personal and harsh.
How would you soften it?
Let's say someone made a mistake in a report. You wouldn't say, "This is wrong." You'd say something like, "I think there might be a small error here," or "I noticed this section might need another look."
Might be, and I think, more softeners.
Exactly. You're presenting it as a possibility, not a definitive judgment. You're also using small error to minimize it and might need another look instead of is wrong.
But they still understand they need to fix it.
Of course, the meaning is completely clear, but the delivery protects their feelings and maintains the relationship. That's what politeness in English is really about, maintaining harmonious relationships.
Time for another language pause. Let's look at some specific polite phrases you'll hear constantly.
First up, would you mind? This is one of the most common polite request forms in English.
Would you mind closing the door? Would you mind if I opened the window?
Right. Now, here's something tricky about this phrase. The answer can be confusing. If someone says, would you mind helping me, and you want to help, you should say, no, not at all, or no, of course not.
Wait, you say no when you mean yes, I'll help?
Exactly, because you're answering the question, do you mind? You don't mind, so the answer is no. This confuses a lot of learners.
That is confusing. What's another common phrase?
I was hoping you could is very common for requests. I was hoping you could send me that file, or I was hoping you could join us for the meeting.
Why was hoping instead of hope?
Using the past tense creates even more distance and politeness. It sounds more tentative, less presumptuous. It's a very subtle form of respect.
What about if that's okay or if that works for you?
These are brilliant additions to any request or suggestion. Let's meet at 3 if that works for you, or I'll send it tomorrow if that's okay. You're checking in with them, giving them space to negotiate.
And what about responses, like when someone thanks you?
No worries is incredibly common, especially in British and Australian English. Thanks for helping. No worries. It's casual and friendly.
Or formal would be you're welcome or my pleasure.
Exactly. And happy to help is a nice middle ground, professional but warm.
Okay, we've covered a lot of polite phrases, but I'm worried we're overwhelming people. How do you actually use all of this without overthinking every sentence?
Excellent question. Here's my practical advice. You don't need to use everything we've discussed. Pick 2 or 3 softeners that feel natural to you and use those consistently.
Like choosing your favorites.
Exactly. Maybe you like just, and I was wondering. Use those. You don't need to master every possible variation. Native speakers have their preferences too. We don't use every polite form all the time.
That actually makes it way less intimidating.
The second piece of advice is this. Focus on tone and intention, not perfection. Even if you don't get the exact phrasing right, if your tone is friendly and your intention is respectful, people will understand.
So we're more forgiving than learners think?
Much more. Native speakers aren't sitting there analyzing your grammar or counting how many times you said could versus can. We're responding to the overall feeling of the interaction.
What if someone is too polite? Can you overdo it?
You can, though it's less common than being too direct. If you use too many softeners, you might sound overly apologetic or uncertain. For example, I was just wondering if you might possibly maybe be able to perhaps help me is too much.
That does sound a bit ridiculous.
Right. 1 or 2 softeners per sentence is usually enough. I was wondering if you could help me is perfect. You don't need to add more on top of that.
What about in casual situations, like with friends?
With friends, you can be much more relaxed. Direct language is fine in casual contexts. Want to grab coffee? Can you pass the salt? No need for excessive politeness.
So you adjust based on the situation.
Exactly. With strangers, colleagues, or formal situations, use more politeness. With friends and family, you can be more direct. It's about reading the room and the relationship.
Any final reassurance for learners who are worried about this?
Yes. Remember that politeness in English isn't about being fake or hiding what you mean. It's about showing consideration for others. Your message is still clear, you're just delivering it in a way that respects social norms and maintains good relationship.
And that's actually a strength, not a weakness.
Absolutely. Being able to communicate politely shows emotional intelligence and cultural awareness. Those are valuable skills.
All right, let's quickly recap what we've learned today about English politeness.
First, English speakers soften their language to reduce social pressure and show respect. This isn't uncertainty, it's consideration.
Second, all those little words like just, kind of, and a bit don't weaken your message. They make it more socially appropriate and often more effective.
Third, being polite in English doesn't make you sound weak. Being too direct can actually make you sound aggressive or socially unaware.
And fourth, you don't need to master every polite phrase. Pick a few favorites and use them consistently. Focus on tone and intention, not perfection.
The key takeaway is this. Slight indirectness is often the safest choice in English. When in doubt, err on the side of politeness.
Here's your challenge for this week. Pay attention to the polite language around you. Listen to how native speakers make requests, give feedback, or disagree with someone. Notice those softening words.
You'll start hearing them everywhere once you're aware of them.
Thanks so much for listening to Plain English. If you found this helpful, let us know in the comments. What's your biggest challenge with English politeness?
We'll see you in the next episode.